Gallery view. Okay, there's music, and then we'll start.
So I'm assuming you're going to pretty much follow the order points.
Of freedom, rational self-interest, and individual rights. This is the Yaron Brook Show.
All right, everybody, welcome to Yaron Brook Show on this Monday, December 1st, and I am honored and pleased to have philosopher Harry Binswanger here with me. Harry is, of course, one of a leading objectivist philosopher. He teaches for the Ayn Rand Institute at ARU and the grad program at the Institute. He manages the Harry Binswanger list, HBL. And what else do we want to say kind of as a highlight, because I think everybody knows. And of course, he was a personal friend of Ayn Rand's and got to know her quite well towards the end of her life. So, and was on the board of the Ayn Rand Institute for 36 years. So, Harry, thank you. Thanks for joining me.
Thanks for having me.
Sure. So, as I told you guys earlier and last week, you know, get your philosophy questions, all the questions that I've punted on and said, oh, ask a philosopher, or the questions where I gave not that great answers. This is the time to ask those questions. We've got a philosopher with us, so somebody who can give you the definitive answers on these questions. But we're going to talk about, we're going to spend the first 30, 45 minutes talking about individual rights, which are really the key political concept, the most important idea in politics. So maybe we can start there. Maybe we can start with, why is that? Why individual rights so important?
Well, they're the principle that unlocks the answer to every political question. And the understanding of individual rights that the average objectivist has is sufficient to get agreement on virtually any policy issue that comes up, like, say, Social Security. Should it be saved? Should it be eliminated, or what? Well, it violates individual rights. It should go. Or what about the draft? Violates the right to life. It can't be, the government can't do it. Eminent domain. The government wants to put up a post office. They can't do it because there are private property rights. The government can't seize your property for any reason. So from welfare to immigration to gun control to social, every topic is resolved by this one idea that you have a right to your life and freedom.
And so where do these rights come from? I mean, this is obviously something that, why do we have, what is it doing? Okay. This is something that particularly conservatives always make a big deal out of, right? You know, without God, where do rights come from? Or I think it was Yuval Noah Harari, who is this overrated philosopher historian who his books are bestsellers. And I heard him once say, you know, you open up a human being, you dissect a human being, there are no rights inside. They're not there. So what is this idea of rights? And people take it seriously. So where do they come from? Where do we get this concept of rights?
That's something that early on in the 60s, when I came into Objectivism, which was a fledgling philosophy then, I thought it was very clarifying, because it seemed like rights were either possessions that you had, attributes of your possessions, or else they were just conventions. They were just, Congress decided to call this your right, so it's your right. And Ayn Rand said that rights are moral principles. So they're like justice or honesty or integrity. They're moral principles, in this case, designed to tell you what a just society is, how to organize society under objective law to allow for moral behavior on the part of its citizens. So they're not attributes of you. They're not things that you have in your possession. They are principles of how human beings ought to interact in a social organization.
So what do you need in order to come up with rights, to induce the concept of rights?
It's a very hard concept to get, apparently. Some of us think it's self-evident. Thomas Jefferson described them as well, actually, the first draft of the Declaration did not use the term self-evident. He said, we hold these truths to be sacred and undeniable.
Okay.
Which is interesting. Self-evident has a better ring, but sacred and undeniable are closer to a proper formulation. Anyway, it's not easy to get because you have to have a philosophic base. And the most important philosophic base you need, well, I guess there's three, but the one I'm thinking of is egoism, selfishness. It's your life is your own to live.
Mm-hmm.
And that was never held except by the ancient Greeks. But once Christianity got going, that was anathema. A little later, I can read you some quotes to illustrate the general idea of man that lies behind either slavery or freedom. And it's a different philosophic base. The other thing that goes along with egoism, the two other related conjoined things, reason and free will. If you don't accept free will, you can't accept political freedom, because then there's no such thing as you making up your own mind, you acting on your own decision. There's just various things influencing you. There's no such idea as the independent, autonomous self. And that's what rights are all about, protecting the independent, autonomous self's ability to choose for itself, as long as he or she respects the same freedom of others.
And why is reason important here?
Why is reason important anywhere? Because you're blind without it. There's no other way of knowing anything, of knowing what's true, what's right, what exists. So it's particularly valuable or important in the theory of rights because that's what rights exist to protect. The reasoning mind. I have some quotes from John Locke, who developed the theory of rights more than anybody else, is one man. John Locke, who described rights in terms of freedom. In terms of reason. And I have some quotes from that. Maybe now is an okay time to read them.
Yeah.
Because
Oh, I lost your sound. I lost your sound, Harry. Not sure what's happening. Can you hear me? Harry? I can't hear you. I think you can't hear me. Something disconnected. I can't hear you.
Is that because
now I can hear you. Okay, so
you can
so
hear
for a while there, I couldn't hear you.
I saw some message go by.
Yeah, I was trying to.
I was saying that in the clutter here, it's going to take a while for me to find the quotes from Locke, but what he was saying is that the nature has a law to govern it, natural law, he called it, and that law is reason. Reason is the reason, the cause why there is such a thing as rights. Animals have to be dealt with by force because you cannot address their minds. So if reason is our means of communicating and of gaining the knowledge we need to survive, then anything that stops reason, paralyzes reason, negates reason, interferes with reason is anti-life and therefore immoral. Now, it wasn't until Ayn Rand that we got that fuller understanding of the role of reason as really fundamental in a theory of rights. And it wasn't until Ayn Rand that we got the idea that free will and reason are synonymous.
Yeah.
So she really completed what Locke began.
Why was the conception of rights associated with natural rights associated with religion and that it sometimes, I mean, is that Locke or is it?
Yes, it is Locke. And the quote from Locke, if I can find it here, is that we're all the workmanship of one omnipotent and all-knowing creator, and we are his to dispose of. So that's why you can't use force against your neighbor, because he belongs to God. So you're interfering with God's property rights.
Yeah.
He owns you, you're his slave, and therefore nobody, unless they have a deputation from God, which he thought was ridiculous, that no one could claim that.
Mm-hmm.
No one can do things with you because you're God's. So it's like one slave owner can't interfere with the other slave owner. It's not exactly a secular base. On the other hand, let me just jump in here to say, Locke had a peculiar attitude about religion and Christianity and God. He thought God gave us the earth to live and prosper and enjoy ourselves in. So he thought God wanted us to be happy egoists.
Oh, okay.
That's really unusual. Most religionists don't think that.
And did he think that then God left us alone, or was he omnipresent God that interfered in our action?
I think he was more of a deist. He wasn't as much of a deist as the founding fathers were, because he was 100 years earlier, and it takes a long development before people get the courage to really question these things that seem unquestionable. But he did not advocate prayer or submission, but he did think that we are owned by God. He's like our parent, and we have to obey him. So that's understandable that people, associated rights with the religion.
Yeah. Did he, were there other people that picked up on the concept of rights, either before him or at the same time?
Yeah, there's a fascinating group before him called the Levelers, and their names you never heard of probably. Like the best one is Richard Overton. And I have here a writing by him. It's called An Arrow Against All Tyrants. And he wrote this while he was imprisoned in the Tower of London for rebelling against Cromwell. And is it all right if I read a couple of fairly short quotes?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah,
This is 40 years before Locke wrote. And he says, no man hath power over my rights and liberties, and I over no man. I may be but an individual, enjoy myself and my self-property, and may right my self no more than myself, or presume any further. If I do, I am an encroacher, an invader upon another man's right. And this one I like. Every man by nature is a king, priest, and prophet in his own natural circuit and compass. whereof no second man may partake, but by deputation, commission, and free consent from him whose natural right and freedom it is.
Huh.
So I think that's really the first time, because if we look at what a right is, people who have been educated today don't really get the idea of a right. A right is not a permission. It's not an entitlement. It's not a direction to do what's right. It says you are the one to choose. It's a moral sanction of your freedom to choose, your freedom of action, not saying it's not ethics. It's the border between ethics and politics. So you have a right to be obnoxious. You have a right to be rude. You have a right to do all kinds of nasty things to people, as long as thereby you do not deprive them of their ability to act freely. So it's not the same as morality.
Mm-hmm.
It's the moral basis of government is what it really is. And Ayn Rand's great identification is rights protect your freedom of action, and freedom is the absence of initiated physical force. So rights say, within my circuit and compass, within the area of my rights, I am the one to decide. And that has to be that way, because you can't say within that compass, you must do the right thing. Decided by whom?
Yeah.
So it is a circuit and compass. It's like, I look at it as circles that exhaust a field. Like everybody has his own land, and no two people's land are on top of each other. You have the land, your boundary ends where his begins. And it's the same with rights.
And is Locke's conception of rights the same in terms of this bridge between morality and
Yes.
politics?
Yes, and that's what's the big thing. But both the levelers here is that you are king in your own area.
Yeah.
Meaning you are autonomous, you are sovereign. Nobody can interfere with you in your area. And by the same token, you can't step out of your protected area and tell somebody or make somebody else do what you want him to do. All interactions have to be voluntary. And Ayn Rand stressed that, I think she was the first to identify, only physical force can violate a right. You can't violate a right by microaggression or by offensive speech or by any form of speech except words like, I'm going to punch your face in if you don't do this.
Yep.
So a threat is different, but just speech, about your ideas or what you believe is not rights violating. But this is hard for people who are second-handers to get. So if you've read The Fountainhead, Peter Keating, who's a real dependent type, I call him clingers. For him, for someone to disapprove of him is equivalent to a punch in the nose.
Yeah.
He cannot abide it. So he doesn't see any big distinction between physical force and a frown.
Yeah, and you see that with these kids who've been raised in a second-handed way, and where they've elevated emotions to the primary activity in life, and therefore, if you offend them, that's as if you slapped them in the face or beaten them up.
Yeah. The language of today, we need access to health care. This poor guy doesn't have access to health care, meaning what? Is the door shut? He can't get in the door? No, it means nobody's giving him free health care. And since health care is a good that has to be produced by the time and effort and mind of some individuals, his complaint is, I don't have access to your wallet and your brain.
Yep.
That's a completely anti-rights viewpoint.
So going back to the levelers, who were these people?
There were, I didn't really get into that. There's about four of them. It's a small movement. It's about four of them. And Richard Overton is the name to remember. There's William Walwyn and a couple of others. They were in the first half of the 17th century, which means 1620, 1640. And Locke wrote in 1688.
Mm-hmm.
So they're way ahead of him. And they had the idea there's an area within which you are sovereign and no one can interfere with you, and you can't go into someone else's area where they are sovereign. And that is so different from the ideas before, which were that, well, society makes rules and you have to follow the rules, or you belong to God, or you belong to your neighbor, and you have to do the right thing. And if you don't, you go to jail.
Do you know where the name levelers comes from? Were they leveling?
It was their enemies. Their enemies looked upon them as wanting to bring down the high and mighty. But the only high and mighty they wanted to bring down were kings and aristocrats.
Yep.
So it was right to be, it meant all men are created equal. That was the leveling. So it was a good movement. And I only know about them because a Cambridge historian who's an objectivist named Brian Yerush gave me a bunch of writings of these people. I'd never heard of them.
Okay. Well, it's an objectivist Cambridge historian. That's good to know.
Yeah.
That's impressive. So, and then from Locke, so there's the levelers and there's Locke.
And then what?
And then the founding fathers, is there anything in between there? Or does anybody else pick up on this concept and really develop it?
Well, I should say, to stress what you just said, the founding fathers were 100% Lockean. Thomas Jefferson wrote to his son and said, if you're only going to read one book, it should be John Locke's Second Treatise of Government. And actually, I urge everyone to read it because it's really good. There are bad things in it, but on the whole, it's the document that created the United States. And John Locke actually wrote the state constitution of South Carolina. And he was good in economics also. I just want to stress the founding fathers did put Locke into practice, and that's what created this country. No question about that. What happened after that? Bam! Coming out of England, well, Scotland, David Hume. David Hume said there's two kinds of knowledge. There's the relations among ideas, which is all just a matter of how you define things and doesn't mean anything. And then there's matters of fact about which we can't know anything. We don't know if the next step we will fall through the floor into the center of the earth. We don't know if something that's falling from the sky and looks like snow might nonetheless burn us and taste like salt. So you can't know the future at all if it's a matter of fact. If you're saying, well, it's geometry, or it's logic, or it's deduction, yeah, that's certain, but it's no good. Doesn't apply to reality. So he came along and said, all this rights talk, I mean, he didn't address rights in particular, but all the ethical notions of the philosophers are hot air. There is no ethics. You cannot prove any ethics. Reason has nothing to say about ethics, and therefore nothing to say about politics, because political philosophy is just applied ethics. So that didn't catch on that much. He was very famous, but he didn't catch on that much until the German philosopher Immanuel Kant glommed onto that and said, hey, Hume is right, but we don't have to be all discouraged about it. We can redefine everything so that the subjective is really the objective. The subjective, if enough people hold it, becomes as good as we can get for objective. So he's the father of socializing consciousness. He's the guy that's the promoter of Vox Populi, Vox Dei. The voice of the people is the voice of God. So everything socialist, collectivist, fascist, communist that is in the world today is due to the influence of Immanuel Kant, who took Hume and socialized it. So, yeah, one person might be wrong, but if everyone thinks it, that's as good as true.
Yeah.
So that you can't have rights on that basis. And he was also a determinist. So we already saw that you can't protect freedom of choice if there is no choice. And then after him, there came a bunch of people carrying his ideas out, like Auguste Comte, the guy who coined the term altruism. I never read Comte until about a year and a half, 2 years ago. I picked up his book. I was amazed at how brazen it is. You know how he compresses his ethics into one little phrase that he repeats over and over again? Live for others.
Yep. He's the most explicit ever of all of the philosophers in terms of altruism.
Live for others. And what are the others living for?
Others.
Others. Yeah. I mean, it's Ayn Rand described that once as an exchange of unwanted Christmas presents. And then Hegel was put Marx and Comte together. Well, it's particularly Marx, and the British Hegelians, which I've read, and I've got one of their works right here, are really Nazis. They're really horrible. Hegel said, yeah, there are rights. Rights is what the government has against you.
Yep.
What you have in relation to the government is duties. So you are, as Bradley says it, the British Hegelian, he says about himself, I am an organ of the state.
Wow.
I am just a cell on the body of society. And he's rabid, determinist, collectivist, goes right from Bradley into the socialist experiment in England. And German Hegelians, of course, created Nazi Germany, which few people will tell you is an abbreviation from Nationalsozialist Deutsche Arbeiterpartei, National Socialist German Workers' Party, National Socialist German Workers' Party. So Hegel was very influential. He was the philosopher of the middle 1800s, the world's philosopher.
Is the nationalist movement that comes around in the mid-19th century a consequence of Hegel?
And today, the whole tribalist of the MAGA versus the progressives is right out of Hegel. It's the identification of the individual with the state or the tribe in this case. So what you need, I'd like to read you, sort of wrapping up this part, I'd like to read you some quotes from two opposite viewpoints and ask yourself what supports rights and what is against rights. Is that okay?
Yep.
All right, so the first one is from the badly named Pope Innocent III, writing in 1198. Now, he wrote this a few years. I think they made him Pope because he wrote this pamphlet on the misery of man. And this is just the most amazing language. And this is what was mainstream. Man is made of mud and ashes. Why are you proud, O mud? Wherefore art thou exalted? What are you, O ash, that you should boast? It gets you into the mood for it.
That's perfect.
Oh, the vile ignobility of human existence. Oh, the ignoble condition of human vileness. Consider the grasses and the trees. Out of their substance, they produce flowers, leaves, and fruit. But man brings forth lice eggs, lice and stomach worms. They yield oil, wine, and balsam, whereas man spews forth sputum, urine, and excrement.
Hey,
In much wisdom, turn now to epistemology. In much wisdom is much vexation, and he who increases knowledge increases sorrow. There is scarcely anything so lowly or simple to understand that man can thoroughly grasp or fully understand. Man perhaps understands one thing, one truth perfectly, namely that nothing is understood perfectly. I got two more. The rich man, no, that's not, sorry. There's a polemic against the rich man and how unhappy he is, but this is the one I want to read. Human life is constant fear, trembling, horror, pain, sadness, restlessness. And the conclusion that he draws, happy are they who die before birth, who experience death before tasting life.
I mean, he's a perfect spokesman for Christianity.
Yes, that's why they made him Pope. He knew how to write.
Yeah.
Now here's the view that underlies rights. I stand here on the summit of the mountain, I lift my head and I spread my arms. This, my body and spirit, this is the end of the quest. I wish to know the meaning of things. I am the meaning. I wish to find a warrant for being. I need no warrant for being and no word of sanction upon my being. I am the warrant and the sanction. The judgment of my mind is the only searchlight that can find the truth. It is my will which chooses, and the choice of my will is the only edict I must respect. I know not if this earth on which I stand is the core of the universe, or if it is but a speck of dust lost in eternity. I know not, and I care not. For I know what happiness is possible to me on earth, and my happiness needs no higher aim to vindicate it. My happiness is not the means to any end. It is the end. It is its own good. It is its own purpose. So that's the kind of attitude, a metaphysical view of man in existence that you need to say, I have a right to my life. You and the state and God, keep your paws off.
And only Ayn Rand could write that. So
Yep, that's from Anthem, what she wrote in 1935.
So very early, even in her philosophical development, so much was already developed.
Yes.
Even when she wrote Anthem.
I once answered, one of the big things about rights that I wanted to mention was the objectivist theory is that rights are not subjective, just opinions in somebody's mind, and they're not intrinsic. They're not possessions or attributes. You can't cut up a person and find his rights. They are objective, which is the relationship of a rational thinking mind to perceptual reality. So it's neither just reality by itself or the mind by itself, but it's the mind grasping reality. That's objectivity. And I once asked her, when did you come up with that? That trichotomy, where no other philosopher ever said that. They only had the idea of subjective or dogmatic, in effect. I said, when did you come up with the three? And she said, oh, I've always thought that. Isn't it obvious? No.
No, it's nobody else in all of human history. Yeah, that's amazing. That's amazing. So, talk a little bit about Ayn Rand's contribution to the concept of rights. I mean, you've already talked some about that.
Yeah, but I think we ought to
Yeah.
nail it down.
Yeah, because really, I mean, actually before that, so rights somewhat survive in the American legal system in the 19th century without really much intellectual support, I take it. There are really no thinkers. So really is kind of momentum out of the Enlightenment and out of the founders. Yeah. And then what happens to the concept? I mean, in America in particular, in our legal system, it starts getting perverted and
they use altruistic rights inflation. Like Ayn Rand talks about FDR's four freedoms. You have a right to be free from fear, like where your next meal is coming from. You have a right to an education. You have a right to respect, even if you're no damn good and don't deserve respect. Yeah. You have a right to all these things that require other people not to have rights. And one of the most powerful statements is so simple that Ayn Rand made. There's no right to violate rights.
Yep.
So your right cannot impose an obligation on somebody else. The only obligation that your rights impose on him is that he cannot invade your rights. Not that he has to give you something, but the concept of rights got inflated away. You know, that like the currency, just you wanted to destroy the dollar, print lots of dollars. Yep. Fiat dollars, phony dollars, and that's what has destroyed the currency. And the same thing has destroyed the concept of rights. So now you have a right to everything, which means that there are no rights.
And do you think that was done consciously? That is, was it a program of the progressives or somebody to kind of inflate away rights?
No,
or it just happened?
No, it was their belief. If you get convinced that no one can help what he does, and that there's no objective truth, there's just my truth and your truth, then you have to start chipping away at rights, and you have to redefine them as claims from the government to get things from the government, like the right to health care and the right to an education, all those things. The so-called positive rights, which mean the rights to things that you didn't earn. Someone else has to supply you with at the price of his slavery. So no, it's not a conspiracy. These thinkers were convinced by Kant and Hegel.
Yep.
And if you hold it, that's what's really hard for some of us to grasp, including me. People really believe these bad philosophies. They don't just say it.
Yep.
They can contradict it, and they do, but they really believe in some way, no, there is no objective truth. There's just what the power structure in the present form, what the power structure is conditioning you to think is true, but me and my little band know isn't true, or feel differently. I shouldn't say no isn't true. It's not our truth. There's your truth and my truth, but no the truth. And so I remember once I spoke at the University of Florida in the 80s, and I spoke against religion. I debated a creation scientist, and there were a number of scientist professors in the audience. And at the end of that formal debate in the question period, they were clearly on my side, and I was a hero to them. But then it came out that I believed in rational certainty, and suddenly they were against me.
Yep.
So it's the philosophy combined with, there is one psychological thing. If you screw up people's education and they're not heroically independent, so you don't teach them how to think, you do everything you can to prevent them from thinking, which is called progressive education, then you're not going to be equipped to figure things out, and you're going to be frightened.
Yeah.
And you're going to look for a solace in a herd that will approve of you. And that is an indirect psychological kind of cause, but it comes from where did John Dewey come from?
Philosophy.
Yeah,
Yep.
he was a philosopher.
Yep.
He both founded the progressive education movement at Teachers College at Columbia, and he was a philosopher with a PhD in the philosophy department of Columbia.
Yeah. So let's talk about Ayn Rand's contribution and
Oh yeah,
how she really, it places individual rights on solid ground. Solid.
Well, first of all, she gives a proof, and the proof is very simple. It involves one step that I didn't emphasize too much, but let's do that now. Freedom. Freedom is the ability to act without being subject to physical force.
Mm-hmm.
The opposite of freedom is slavery, compulsion, force. So she defined the right as a moral principle, defining and sanctioning man's freedom of action in a social context. So she connects rights to a claim to freedom, and freedom is the absence of being forced or coerced physically. And she connects physical force to the mind by negation. Force is anti-mind, is one of her statements in Atlas Shrugged.
Mm-hmm.
Force is anti-mind. It negates and paralyzes the mind. So if rights protect your ability to use your mind and act on it, force is the only way you can stop a person from doing that. You can't do it by saying, hey, look, don't think so hard. I'm going to think hard. You can't stop me. Well, I can hit you over the head. Yeah. And that's what takes your freedom of action away. So she connected rights to freedom, freedom to force, force to the destruction of the mind, and then the mind is man's means of survival, which other people had grasped also, but she emphasizes it much more than the average person did. But if it's our means of survival, and survival is the ultimate purpose of life, is to go on living and do things, achieve things that promote your survival, then it's the evil is to prevent you from surviving, to kill you. And in fact, that's the ultimate evil, and that's what violations of rights do. So rights protect your life. They're life protecting because they're mind protecting, and your mind is your tool of survival, your basic tool of survival. So she made that chain of connections, which no one had so clearly delineated. Some people you've never heard of probably, well, you, because you've been an objectivist a long time, but the audience probably never heard. Auberon Herbert, an English guy from 1900, is really good on this and says it's force versus reason, and rights and freedom are about self-ownership and the ability to think and act on your thinking. He's really good. So she connected those concepts, and then she had this whole metaphysical, epistemological concept of objectivity, which showed that these principles came from thinking about observations of reality, not from God, not from sacred texts, not from Congress, but from your own understanding of reality through reason. That's objectivity. That's why she called it objectivism.
Yep.
So that's what she contributed, the whole basis of rights, the whole basis of it.
And of course, she develops a whole morality of egoism, which
and free will.
grounds it. Yeah.
And free will. She connect. No one, I'm telling you, no one ever dreamed of thinking that free will is your mind's ability to think, your mind's ability to focus and set a mental purpose and execute on that purpose. No one ever talked about that before. Yeah. So she connects everything so nicely, and it's all introspectively verifiable.
Mm-hmm.
You know, you can easily see, yeah, if I couldn't think, I wouldn't know what to put in my mouth. I wouldn't know how to get money. If I couldn't think, you know, I'd be like my cat.
Yep.
And I couldn't live. I couldn't survive. So it comes down to very simple observations integrated in a nicely hierarchical way, but all reducible to what is absolute common sense.
So, so today nobody talks about rights. I mean, even when they're arguing for something positive, the left, abortion, the right, sometimes economic freedom, sometimes really, they don't mention rights. I mean, you can go through the whole season of debates, and it never comes up. Right. Why are they avoiding the concept completely?
Because it's too abstract for them. It involves a moral, I mean, by the very word right, it involves taking a moral stand. And most intellectuals are afraid to take a moral stand. Plus, David Hume convinced them reason can't make moral judgments.
Yep.
It's emotional. So that's why they don't talk about rights. And you know, when I began reading Ayn Rand, she began publishing the Objectivist newsletter in the early 60s. She said something on the order of, conservatives don't talk about individual rights. And I thought, really? I thought they did. And I started looking.
Yeah.
They didn't talk about it.
See, even then.
Yeah, even then. And now it's much worse, because back then they knew about rights, but were afraid to bring them up.
Yep.
Now they don't even have the concept anymore. Nobody does.
Even the Supreme Court doesn't talk about rights. And you'd think that that would be the basis for the rulings.
Yeah. Well, they have to go by the Constitution, but the animating principle of the Constitution is individual rights.
Yeah.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. And of course, the first chink in America was the dichotomy between human rights and property rights. So the left, the liberals, they were then, much milder leftists. The liberals said, I'm all for human rights, and property rights mustn't conflict with human rights. So they would think things like, if somebody has too much money, it means that other people who have little money are disrespected, and that's a violation of their human rights. You have a right to dignity and respect. Yeah. So great accumulations of wealth, this is like Teddy Roosevelt, great accumulation of wealth is economic royalism. It's like having a king. And today it's a progressive left that talks about millionaires and billionaires and how bad they are. Ignoring the fact that they created their fortunes and often
and a lot more.
I was saying to somebody at breakfast the other day, You know, 2 years ago, we didn't hear anything about this company, NVIDIA. And people were talking about, is it NVIDIA or NVIDIA?
Yep.
And now it's $4 trillion capitalization, market cap.
Yep.
So it's not like things are frozen in place and we're now paying homage to John Jacob Astor's great-great-great-grandchildren. It's a constant turnover in the economy as new people earn a position.
Constant, and people still don't learn from that. It's amazing. It's amazing.
Yeah.
Okay. We have a bunch of questions, and we've already gone almost an hour. So let's turn to the questions, and then we'll see. Yeah, there's a lot. And before that, we wanted to mention this conference. It's going to happen in Florida. Rand's Day, which I think is a term you coined.
Yep.
Which is Rand's birthday on February 2nd. So the conference is around the birthday. It's going to be January 30th to February 2nd in Fort Myers, Florida. And you're going to be speaking?
And you're going to be speaking.
And I'm going to be speaking.
Yeah.
And we're also going to have Peter Schwartz and Gene Maroney and Shoshana Milgram, Ellen Kenna, Don Watkins is coming. And then you and Peter and me are doing a panel answering questions on various problems that come up about how do they get solved by laissez-faire capitalism. The way I think about it is, who would own the roads? I mean, that's always the question you get, right? So if anybody wants to register, you should. It's going to be a lot of fun, and it's just fun. It's a group of objectivists, and it's a very relaxed atmosphere, and it's very friendly and very.
And it's only 2 or 3 days. Yeah.
Yeah, it's only 2 days, and I think there's a banquet on the first night. There's like a dinner, and then there are 2 days of talks. It's RandsdayCon. That's all one word. RandsdayCon.thebvh.com. I don't know what the BVH means. Do you know what the BVH means?
No, I don't. I'm thinking on my feet here.
.thebvh.com. That's the URL. You can find all the information there. You can sign up there. I think the prices go up December 30th. So you've got a few weeks to make your decision. But yeah, it'd be great to see you guys.
Yeah, I recommend it highly, particularly because I'm speaking, and I'm talking on how to study Ayn Rand's writings, the methodology you can use to mine her writing. Let me tell you the rationale of Rand's Day.
Okay.
It's unlike any other holiday. On Rand's Day, you give yourself a present. In recognition of pleasure as a profound psychological need and
Beautiful.
egoism. So something that you think is too extravagant to buy for yourself normally, but here's an occasion to get that luxury that you ordinarily wouldn't get.
And this year, the luxury should be to come to Rand's Day Conference.
Exactly. Good identification.
Yeah. All right. Let's jump into the questions. So you guys can ask questions pretty much about anything. You can use the Super Chat feature, and I will start with the people who put the most money on, and then we'll go down from there. So we'll start with a couple of $50 questions. Let's see. This is from Carbon Paw. In terms of individual rights, could you further define what separates animals from men? What are the minimum attributes an animal must possess to be considered a valid recipient of individual rights?
Well, he would have to survive by means of reason. Reason would have to be something that if he couldn't exercise, then he would be unable to survive. And I personally, this is not part of objectivism for sure, but I kind of lean towards self-consciousness. If you don't even know that there's a you and that you have a life, I don't think you have rights. But there's nothing wrong with using physical force against animals, for a number of reasons, all of which come down to they are not thinking beings.
Yep. They function through force. I mean, they function through.
Yeah. They appropriate,
Yep.
they don't create,
Yep.
and they deal with each other through physical contact. So maybe I could plug my own definition of physical force, because that's never defined anywhere in the corpus. I say the physical force is physical contact with another's person or property without his consent.
Yeah. So let's say we discover that chimpanzees, they can understand 10 words.
Mm-hmm.
Does that mean that they have rights?
No.
No, and because they're not surviving by reason.
Yeah, they don't use their minds to survive. They just grab what's available to them. And even if you taught them to say some words, which most of those studies have been exploded, by the way, about the chimpanzees learning language. They haven't. But even if they could, there's nothing in philosophy to say that some other species couldn't have primitive concepts. Mm-hmm. But man as a rational being means a being for whom reason is the means of survival.
Yep.
And it has to be volitional also. I was going to tell a story, but it's gone out of my mind. So what's going on?
All right. Andrew asks, what of the claim that Rand was essentially lonely because of her intellect? Some who claim it are second-handers who I think project their own dependency issues on her. She described herself as happy, which doesn't imply extreme loneliness. Thoughts?
Oh, I think she was at a certain, in growing up, she was lonely. I think she has said that because she didn't have people that she could talk to about the things that mattered to her most. And then she discovered that her father, who had been very distant, the Victorian era fathers didn't have much to do with the children. Mm-hmm. You'd be trotted out at dinner and Papa would pat you on the head and that your life would be with Mother. And when she got to be a teenager, she found out that her father was an individualist and she had a interest in him and an affection for him based on that. But lonely as a person, I don't think so. She didn't, I spent many, many hours with her and she never gave me anything to think that. Frank O'Connor was so much her soulmate that that took care of almost all of her needs. In fact, she said once, you'd be surprised, she said, talking to me and a few other people, but she obviously meant herself, how little some of your friends really mean to you. Meaning, you enjoy interaction with them, but if you didn't have them, it wouldn't matter a great deal.
Yeah. Interesting.
One or two friends, close friends, that's different.
Yep.
But a bigger circle of friends, they're nice to have, and you do value them. But I don't know. I don't think she was a lonely person at all. I know when Frank was alive, she wasn't lonely. And of course, when I knew her, and going back from whenever she got to this country in 1926, she had a lot of people that she knew and talked with. She had a cook cleaning lady that she was very fond of. And she said to her once, "You're my sister."
Yeah.
And that cleaning lady was religious. She was from Guyana. She was a black woman who was religious. And she said to me once, Ayn Rand, not the cleaning, she said, I can sort of understand how they believe in heaven, but how do they believe in hell?
Yeah.
She couldn't grasp that,
grasp
nor
it,
can
no.
I, to tell you the truth.
Well, I mean, according to Innocent the Third, according to that quote, we're already in hell. So, okay,
Yeah, that's right. This is hell.
this is
Yeah,
hell.
yeah.
So Clay asks, is Spinoza's description in his Ethics of human bondage, man as a slave to passive emotions rooted in inadequate ideas, is that essentially correct and perhaps the deepest analysis of self-enslavement prior to Rand's
Well, I
idea of
have not
evasion as a
read.
failure to think?
I have not read of human bondage, but I've read the Ethics of Spinoza, and he's unusually good. He is introspective in a field where no one is introspective except Ayn Rand.
Yeah.
And he identifies the meaning of all the emotions. His amazing section telling you what jealousy is and what hope is and what grief is. And he was an egoist. He was also religious, but he was a pantheist. He thought reality was God in some sense. So he did not believe in a personal God. So I don't think, but he was a kind of determinist. He didn't realize that he was a determinist, I don't think, but he held that reason determines you rather than you go out to reason. He thought reason came to you. So he's a mixed figure, but he's one of the few good. There's only about 3 good guys in the history of philosophy.
Yeah.
And you know what Ayn Rand said once? She said, trust the 3 A's: Aristotle, Aquinas, and Ayn. but also in We the Living, Leo quotes Spinoza. Spinoza's pretty good. John Locke is pretty good, but confused. Yeah. He's a lot confused. And I can probably come up with a 3rd guy who had some good things. But Aristotle, of course, is the main achiever in philosophy. That's why we're here, is Aristotle.
And Locke read Spinoza.
Yeah, I did a 2 or 3 lecture series on Locke in 1989, and I went in depth into Locke's deeper philosophy, not his politics. Yeah. And it was very discouraging because he's very Christian and Cartesian. Yeah. He picks up a lot of strains from other people, and then he mixes Aristotle in with it. And there's some good things in his basic philosophy, but he's, like the typical English guy is, he's empiricist and not aware of the contradiction between different things he holds. I think that was Locke. He was a little bit of a bumbler, but well-meaning.
And amazing that he achieved what he achieved in politics.
Yeah, yeah. And it was only a generation till, I think of it, 17, maybe a little more than a generation, or Jeremy Bentham said, rights are nonsense. They're nonsense upon stilts.
Yep.
The famous phrase, nonsense upon stilts.
Yep. So Clay asks, from an objectivist standpoint, a bondage, a servitude, the right terms when the master is one's own irrationality rather than another person.
You mean you're a slave to your passions, to your irrational...
you're a slave to your passions, which is Spinoza's kind of...
No, it's metaphorical. It's metaphorical because at any time you can stop it. It gets harder and harder, but Leonard Peikoff makes a great point in Objectivism, the philosophy of Ayn Rand, which we call OPAR for short. He says that if you're out of focus and drifting and riding on your emotions, you don't really have choices, except for that basic choice to be that way. Mm-hmm. But you're surrendering to your whims. So you do what you feel like doing, and that's generated by your subconscious, and you are like a robot. But to the extent that you think, you take control, and he says the world of choice opens up to you because you have you can see the future, and you can evaluate what's being proposed by your urges from your subconscious and either say okay or no.
Yep.
The world opens up to you once you choose reason, but if you don't, you're Hume, my favorite guy here, Hume said reason is and ought to be the slave of the passions.
Yeah.
One of the most disgusting statements in the history of philosophy.
Yeah. And he is so beloved by classical liberals. So people.
Oh, Hayek. Hayek has 3 quotes on the front of The Fatal Conceit.
Yep.
One is Hume saying reason has nothing to say about ethics.
Yep.
This makes sense because Hayek, Ayn Rand called him pure poison. And if you read The Fatal Conceit, I can't get past the first 2 pages because I've filled it with criticisms. It's all scratched out. Everything in there is so wrong.
And it's so beloved by the libertarians, the free market people. They're all the conservatives. They all love Hayek.
Yeah,
I think because of that, because he doesn't challenge them philosophically. Philosophically, he's just conventional.
and he wasn't laissez-faire either.
No.
Many interventions he approved of.
Yeah. So, all right. So this is a question of molten splendor. I love that name. If a switch was flipped, Yaron was elected president, and the government was relegated to only objectivist duties, knowing that few understood individual rights and morality, would we become a more litigious society?
It's hard to imagine as being a more litigious society.
Yeah, exactly. I'm not sure what the
history's #1 litigious society. And the reason is that we do not have the British rule, which is the loser pays the cost of the winner. That would take a lot of it out of the hands of lawyers.
I just don't know how I got elected if nobody has any understanding of individual rights and morality. So that's the impossibility there. But no, I don't see why litigation goes up. What are they suing about?
Under objective law.
Yeah.
If the court system were cleaned up and objective law were in, and they weren't spending their time prosecuting people for selling bad stuff like drugs, there would be a lot more justice.
Or for working without a government permit, right? Crossing a border without a government permit.
Yes.
Working without a government permit. If they weren't being chased down in the streets for that.
Yeah.
No.
People, can I say a polemical thing here?
Absolutely.
People talk about, during the government shutdown, people are starting not to be able to get their food stamps.
Yeah, I know.
And of course, they're young enough. I remember when nobody had food stamps because there was no such thing in the early 70s. It was put in, and I couldn't believe, you mean we're going to give people free money to buy food? Yeah. But that, they imagined that by the logic of their premises, before, say, 1950, it must have been that you stepped over dead bodies in the streets.
Yeah, they couldn't get health care. They didn't have food.
Couldn't get health care.
Yeah.
Couldn't get food stamps.
Yep.
People were free to do all kinds of things that we know we shouldn't be able to do because we want to do them. Yep. And if we were, the government stops us from doing it, so we know that they're right because we want to do them. Yeah. You know what I mean? Thank God for the government. Otherwise, I'd be running amok.
Absolutely. All right. Let's see. Lone dissenter. A pre-moral choice to live grounds ethics. Does an analogous pre-political choice ground government. That is, the choice to gain from knowledge and trade requires organized society and objective laws protecting their source, the mind.
Yes, you could say what Ayn Rand says is that individual rights are the logical transition between individual ethics and the principles of an organized society. So they're the extension of individual morality into the political sphere. And it's not, unlike the certain Republican virtue views, it's not that we want to make everyone good and that the law is geared to make people virtuous. The law is there to see that the people who choose right are not stopped by the people who choose wrong. That's what the law is for.
Yep. All right. Ian asks, how much have you used LLMs? Which is your current favorite? And do you have a recommendation for the best source on the objectivist take on artificial into AGI, I guess? If there is one, you should write one.
Yes and no. I've got a strong yes and no on that. I've been using Claude, ChatGPT 4.5, and Perplexity so heavily in the last 2 weeks that I haven't been able to hardly post anything at all because of various exogenous reasons that I shouldn't have to be doing it. And what's amazing, I'm using them for technical things. You know, write me a program for Mac Carabiner to imitate auto hotkey on the PC. What's so astonishing to me is how wrong they are. And I don't say that gleefully, you know, like, oh, ha, ha, ha. No, I'm trying to get code that will run. And they give me this whole, brrr, out comes the code. And I put it in the compiler and it says error. And I read back the error to the AI agent and it says, you're exactly right. I've now fixed it so it will run. And then brrr, and I put it in error. And it goes hour after hour after hour. If you persist, eventually you'll get it. But it's astonishing how both helpful it is in getting what you might think of as a rough draft, and how poor it is at getting something that will run.
Yeah. That's surprising. You think programming it could do.
Yeah. Yeah, but it gets it wrong. And they'll say, for instance, there's two levels of errors. One is you need the Gesellschaftshaven command here with two variables. And you put it in and you find there's no Gesellschaftshaven command in this language. Oh, you excellent point. It comes back.
Yeah.
Everything you do is excellent.
Excellent. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's coded for customer service in the weirdest way.
Yeah. Yeah. But I don't know. I'm fed up with it. And I can't do without it, probably. I don't know. I programmed without it for all my life, and I'm a bad programmer, so I was looking forward to something better than me.
Yeah.
But no, not yet.
Not yet. Did Ayn Rand say anything about Stalin's daughter, Svetlana, who defected to the US in the 1960s? She denounced her father's crimes and communism. What do you think of her?
I don't know. She didn't say anything that I heard. And I have two stories to tell. She loathed Solzhenitsyn. She thought Solzhenitsyn was a mystic and worse than, well, I don't know, as bad as the commies for his sentimental, mystical attachment to Mother Russia. She really rankled under his popularity. And the other thing goes back to the computers. Did you know that I once had Ayn Rand to my apartment and had her program something on a computer?
No, I've heard you say something about a computer and Ayn Rand, but not that she programmed.
She came to my apartment when I was living in the East 60s, 62nd Street for something else. I don't remember what right now. And I had a CPM S100 bus system. This is 1977-ish.
Yeah.
And I sat her down and I said, now type in 10. This is basic.
Yeah.
Print hello. Now, and hit an enter, and she did that. Now type 20, go to 10. So she did, and then we ran it, and of course, across the screen it was hello, 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 hello,
Yeah, yeah.
which when first time I saw it, I thought, wow.
That's so cool.
Yeah, she was not impressed at all. She had no interest in that. She said, I think computers are interesting from the standpoint of they work by binary logic. It's either or, and I think we could learn a lot about psychoepistemology from computers.
Yeah.
But that she did not have that wow response the way I did to seeing a computer do things.
All right, Dave asks, the Constitution guarantees me the right to trial by jury. This obligates others to serve on a jury. The jury system protects me from government overreach, but at the same time, it gives me a right to someone else's labor. I guess he's asking his opinion on that.
Shouldn't. It should be paid. Should be paid work.
Should it be voluntary?
Voluntary pay, like just like any other job, but it wouldn't be a job. It would be, a week or something. You also have to remember that in the old days, and by that I mean before 1940, jury trials were over in a day.
Mm-hmm.
It's amazing now, but I seem to have read that the longest murder trial in U.S. history before 1940 was 2 days.
Wow.
Now, that may be apocryphal and not true, but things were much quicker back then. And there's a number of reasons why. But it should be paid. It shouldn't be... you could turn it down, if you wanted to volunteer, because the pay would probably not be that great.
Yeah.
But they shouldn't be able to haul someone in. And look at the contradiction. We're going to sit you down by force and make you use your honest judgment.
Yeah.
By force. Here's a gun at your head. If you don't serve, you're going to be robbed or sent even to jail for overnight or something. And so we got your mind. We trust you. And now tell us what you think. It's like Mr. Thompson and Galt. Tell us what to do.
Yep.
We need to know. It's a contradiction. And it's because of the patriotism of the citizenry that it works at all.
Yep.
But it should be paid. I mean, for paid enough to get enough jurors.
To get enough people to come.
Yeah.
Supply and demand.
And enough rotating so that it's not the same 25 people. Obviously, that would be terrible. And you got to remember, what is the budget of a state? Most trials are state trials, right? Or even small. What does the state do with all those billions and billions and billions?
Redistribute.
Only two legitimate functions are the state troopers and the courts.
Yep, absolutely.
No education.
Yep.
No libraries. No.
More welfare programs.
Yeah, welfare days, celebrations in the park.
Yeah.
God knows what, monuments. So you can understand a little bit how the federal government has to spend a certain amount of money because of national defense.
Yeah.
But the states don't have to do that. What are they spending it on? So you could get jurors easily.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. Andrew asks, how did the founding fathers induce a political recognition of man's right to pursue happiness without the moral sanction of selfishness?
They did have it. So you can't put yourself back before Kant. But in the 1800s, they had two kinds of virtues, the self-regarding virtues and the other regarding virtues. And the other regarding virtues were pretty innocuous,
Yeah.
like benevolence and charitableness, and the self-regarding virtues were the kind that Benjamin Franklin wrote about in the Poor Richard's Almanac, things you need to do to get ahead. And there were things like your name, your reputation is your most precious possession. So show integrity, and things that are inconceivable to us today. But no, there was for the first time in history, the British and American ethicists thought, yeah, you got to be selfish. For part of the code, it's got to be pro-selfishness. And Locke thought that the natural law was a law of self-preservation.
Yep.
And so did Spinoza. So we now, after Kant and Comte and all those slimy people, we can't imagine that there was respect for selfishness back then, but there was.
Yeah. So let's see. DWN Logic, $500. This is amazing. Thank you so much to you and your wife, Mr. Binswanger, for all the wonderful work you've both done. You've both improved my life immensely. You're not that bad either, Yaron. Thank you, DWN. That's very generous.
That's very nice.
Yeah.
And he didn't have a question.
Didn't have a question.
Okay. I really appreciate that.
Yeah, absolutely.
You teach and you wonder, does anybody get it?
Oh,
is it of any value to people? And it's nice to hear it is.
They're out there. There's no question they're out there. Andrew says, can you explain the logic of hierarchical conceptual order Rand made in stating, I'm a defender of capitalism because I'm a defender of individualism. I'm a defender of individualism because I'm a defender of reason, champion of reason.
Well, it was egoism, not individualism, but that same idea.
Yep.
The hierarchical order is that reason is the method by which you get to the others. So it's more fundamental. If your idea of reason is God is love, love is blind, Ray Charles is blind, so Ray Charles is God, you're not going to get to egoism and individual rights. You're going to be terminally confused like most people. So reason is, the concept of reason brings together freedom to protect reason, free will as the choice to use reason or not, and connection to reality, which is because reason is the faculty that identifies and integrates material provided by perception, and perception is physically in contact with reality, physically.
Yep.
So it's a nexus of everything.
Shahzad, I have sometimes told people that they cannot delegate rights to the government that they themselves do not possess. And they look at me like I have three heads. Is there a better way of putting it?
It cannot be moral for the government to do something that it would be immoral for the citizens to do individually.
Yep. So taking somebody else.
That might be a way of reaching them.
Yeah, I like that.
But that's a very important, it's good in immigration, and this point was made by a critic of objectivism in the academy, but it's a good point.
Yeah.
Would you have the right to stand at the border and say to someone coming into the country, you have to prove to me that you're not a criminal and that you're not bringing in something I don't want in the country, and if you don't, I'm going to push you right out.
Yeah.
And if you don't have that right, how
does the government have it?
300 million people get that right.
Yeah. All right, Jason asks, there's no time travel because of how cause and effect works, but could a camera exceed light speed and photo the past? For example, Lincoln's assassination. Without deep physics, should a simple principle prevent pursuing such a camera?
the simple yes and no, depending upon how we take. The simple principle is that if it's possible, it's way beyond anything any of us will be able to do for 100 years. So you don't want to spend your time on a fruitless pursuit. But no, there's no, I believe in faster than light propagation of information, which Einstein just kind of legislated isn't possible. And I'm influenced by an objectivist philosopher of science in that belief. And if that's true, then it would be like in Think Twice, Ayn Rand's play Think Twice, where the heroine asks the hero, tell me your feelings about me. And he says, they say that sound waves never die. They just go out. So maybe in a few weeks, we can catch up with those sound waves and you'll hear what I'm thinking now or something like that. Yeah, you can catch up with sound waves. I don't know if you could detect them. That'd be awful hard. And you could catch up with light waves, I think. But that's not for philosophy to say. That's physics.
Physics. Yep.
So the answer is, don't waste your time now. It is nothing that I know of that precludes that, but Einstein would say you can.
And Molten Splendor asks, what was the most difficult philosophical concept for you, Harry, to grasp?
That's an excellent question. And I would say the reconciliation of free will and causality, which involves getting a better handle on causality. Yeah. And I think I'm pretty much there, but I'm not talking about it.
Okay. Somebody should ask about that. Okay. Dave says, there's a part one. Where's Dave's part one? I hate when they do this. Dave.
Well, I'll tell you another one I did get was the contradiction of determinism, if you know that argument, that if you were determined, then you would believe what you had to believe, whether it was true or not, and so you couldn't have knowledge of anything, including that determinism is true. And I had an answer to that, which is, what if you're determined to go by reason? And after, 4 decades, I really understand what's wrong with that, which is that going by reason is not a mechanical thing that you can, it's not an algorithm. You can't program it in. And the whole notion of objectivity depends on free will.
So Dave asks, the concept of infinity and of the infinitely large and the infinitely small, undeniably useful and fruitful in mathematics. Calculus is based on these concepts, and physics gets nowhere without calculus. Yet there is nothing in the universe that is infinite. You can't point to it. Is it part of objective reality?
No. The answer to that is that infinity has been misconceived in a mystical way. The proper use of infinity is that it's an amount beyond which additional increments make no difference in the outcome of a function. So how they teach the hyperbole xy equals 1, that as you go out the x-axis, it gets closer and it gets closer and closer to 0. But it can't get to 0, and there's always a gap. That's a mystical concept. It gets so close to 0 that the difference in mathematical calculation between it and 0 is too small for you to measure or have any awareness of. So it's effectively 0. So there's nothing in calculus that depends upon infinity. There's only, or the infinitesimal. It's only that it gets small enough or large enough that getting smaller or larger doesn't add anything.
Okay.
That's my concept of infinity. Registered trademark.
That's good. Okay. Dave also asks, Yuval Harari, in his book, Homo Deus, distinguishes between three types of reality: objective reality, which exists independent of our believing it. The moon exists whether I look at it or not. Subjective reality, which exists only in individual minds. I have a headache. And intersubjective reality, which exists in the minds of many individuals at once through shared agreement. This border separates America from Canada. What is Yuval missing or getting wrong?
Well, only that the intersubjective reality, I mean, I don't know what term he uses for that, but that it presupposes the other two. That you have to use your mind to objectively decide, well, Joe believes the same thing I do.
Yeah.
And when you say the relation of my mind and Joe's mind to reality is so-and-so, you're making a statement about reality. So people say, we're each trapped in our own private universe. We think we know what's really out there, but we don't. All we're aware of is what's in our minds, not what's outside in reality. They're making a statement about what's outside in reality by doing that. So it's a stolen concept. You can't talk about my mind. I can't think about, what is it you can't think about? Well, if you can't think about it, then you don't think about it, and you don't.
That's shared.
So you have to, the image is, here's a mind, I'm holding up my left fist, and here's the world, and I'm holding up my palm. And you're saying, well, there's a certain relation here, like this guy's inside his mind, and reality's out there, and he can't get out to it, or it's distorted what he gets. And you're making a statement about what is. He's there, he's got a mind, the world's there, it's a certain way, and the relation objectively is so-and-so. You're making a statement that you say you can't make.
So would you though call subjective reality that which exists only in individual mind? Would you call it subjective?
No, I wouldn't call it reality.
Yeah.
It's subjective content. There's, a better term is mind dependent.
Okay.
There's certain things that are mind dependent, like a tickle. There's no tickles if there are no consciousnesses.
Yeah.
But it's not a reality. It's just the subjective is the content. Let me say one other framing thing. There is subjectivity. There is objectivity, like what we have now, and there is subjectivity, like what comes out of Donald Trump's mouth.
Yep.
There is no intrinsic.
Yep.
The intrinsic is a wrong theory of how the mind works. And this was very clarifying when Ayn Rand explained it to everybody back in about 1972, because we thought there were three types of reality: the intrinsic reality, the objective reality, and the subjective reality. No, there's the mind in touch with reality, and there's a mind out of touch with the reality. Then there's some philosopher's theory about what's going on. That's the intrinsic. The intrinsic is like revelation, but there is no revelation. So objectivism does not say, disregard your revelations.
Yeah.
It says there are no revelations. It doesn't say disobey God. It says there is no God.
It goes back. It's just subjective.
Yeah. The idea that there's intrinsic stuff that writes itself upon your brain is a wrong idea inside somebody's head. Doesn't refer to anything.
All right. Bobby asks, hi, Harry. can we ever expect a follow-up on Saving Math from Plato? It has been an immense help for my own thinking and also when talking to my friend Simon, who loves metaphysical numbers.
Well, there are two of those. It's probably Bobby Sandler, and there are
Bobby
two.
Williams.
Oh, okay. There are two such lectures, and each one is better than the other. Go figure that.
Yeah.
And I recommend highly both of them. The second one recapitulates the findings of the first one, and there will be I don't know if I'll call it a book, but there'll be a series of essays
Oh, good.
on the internet or maybe in a printed book form that will put forward this whole thing, because it's really important. And a lot of objectivists oppose me, but I think they oppose me when I get to the higher stuff, beyond calculus, which I don't really understand myself, and I'm not going to say anything about.
Yeah. Yeah.
But I think the basic stuff of what is mathematics, what is arithmetic, what is infinity, what is nil. I have this concept of nil.
Yeah.
I think that's really helpful and simplifies everything.
Good.
And it's going to come out in print.
Good. I think somebody else was asking about that as well. So we still got quite a few questions. So
I'll try and do bang bang answers.
yeah, let's try to do bang bang answers. Okay. So if a rational person became president, whom, if anyone, should they pardon? Why and what justifications should they give?
Don't know. That's my bang bang answer. Don't know.
Yeah. No, that's good. If a person deletes and blocks contacts on their partner's phone without the partner's knowledge or prior consent, whose rights are being violated? The partner's.
Yeah. Is it physical force?
Using their property without their permission.
Yeah, I would think so. Yeah. Yeah.
That's a form of physical force.
And the people that she or he would have been talking to, their rights are also being violated.
Yep. Baker, when will we be able to buy your book on philosophy of mathematics? I'm looking forward to it. So this is
not this week.
Okay. Sometime.
I gave up predicting about the time Leonard Peikoff gave up. Ayn Rand said that Atlas Shrugged was going to be shorter than The Fountainhead and would take her about a year and a half.
Yeah, 12 years later.
12 years, yeah.
Nathan asks, how would you answer the ship of thesis problem?
Oh, that's a good one. That's a good one. Don't know.
Okay.
That's a ship of thesis is a person borrows a ship and he has it for years with the permission of the owner, and pieces keep rotting away and he keeps buying new timbers to put in. And at the end of the assigned time, every piece of lumber on the ship has been replaced. Is it any longer the owner's ship? When is a question of personal identity or the identity, continuing identity over change. I don't have a real good answer to that. Fortunately, it doesn't matter.
Yeah, and in the case of a leasing ship, it would be in the contract, right? The maintenance would be one of the aspects of the contract you would decide in advance.
I can. Thank you, Yaron, because that brings forward a general point. You talked about who would own the roads and so forth. About halfway through my progress in objectivism, I realized if the basic framework of rights is in place the way it was, say, in the United States in circa 1840, right after the Civil War, 1870.
Yeah.
You can work out anything that's not optimal, like this. Let's say that it's not, the law is wrong. You can make contracts around it. As long as the basic rights protecting framework is in place, the little stuff isn't going to really be a problem.
Nathan also asks, what are some of the big or important questions in philosophy that objectivists still haven't answered yet?
What is an objective threat of force? I think is a big political question. What are the methods of induction? I think Leonard Peikoff has solved the problem of induction, but doesn't provide a working scientist with a working method to apply to his field. I think more has to be done on causality. And more can be done on psychoepistemology, which is the cross between psychology and philosophy. Those are the things I would name.
Yeah.
But the real hay is to be made in philosophy of science. And that's what I'm in 5 different sciences. And I think I have great things to say in all of them.
Good. So Nathan also asks, Ayn Rand said she does not consider charity a major virtue. Did she consider it a minor virtue? If so, what is a minor virtue and what does she mean by this?
I don't think she considered it a minor virtue. I think she was speaking there to negate a wrong idea, not to lay out what the principles of the right idea was. She wanted to say, look, you don't have to give.
Yep.
Your worth as a person is not measured by how much you give away, but by how you use your mind. And I don't think, I think benevolence is not really a virtue, but it's close to a virtue. Goodwill towards men it would lead to charity in certain circumstances. I've given a little bit over the years to various charities, but it's really a little. I prefer to give to the Ayn Rand Institute to defend my right not to have to give to charity.
Absolutely. Alex, there is a YouTube channel called Inductica.
Yeah, James Elias, yes.
His owner makes many bold claims, for example, that he proved existence of the ether. Do you have an opinion about this person and channel?
I like his work in mathematics. I am a little dubious about his work in physics. I believe in the ether also, simply on the grounds that if light is a wave, there has to be something that's waving. And you could call that the ether. And people who talk about the electric field, the magnetic field, or the electromagnetic field, and the quantum field have to posit that of which it is the potential, because the field is a set of potentials that is changing, like the height of the water in a swimming pool that's choppy. And that's the field. So there has to be the water, whether it's, but pretty much we don't know yet. Pretty much the physics has to be worked out better than it is. But you can't say that, like, now people don't say, so those who believe it's all photons don't say it's a wave. But to the extent that it's a wave, there has to be something that's waving. Otherwise, it's a misdescription. Let's put it that way.
Yep. So you don't think he's proven it?
No.
Okay. Since the proper conception of rights, this is Andrew, since the proper conception of rights is as moral principles, does referring to rights as nonsense on stilts imply that principles don't exist? What kind of epistemology leads to such a statement?
Empiricism. There's only 2 traditions aside from objectivism in the history of philosophy: rationalism, which is logic without sense perception, and sense perception without logic, which is empiricism. So it's no accident that Bentham and Hume and Mill are classed as empiricists. They thought that sense perception is the only thing, and not even that. Hume was willing to say, it seems to me that there's something red in my experience. But he wasn't prepared to say there really is something red in my experience, because I might be mistaken.
Yeah.
But you can get an awful lot in awful great distance in philosophy by rejecting the arbitrary.
Mm-hmm.
That was something I didn't understand until about 1976, that the arbitrary is neither true nor false.
Yeah.
And yet you treat it the same way you do falses, pretty much, that you just say, not going there. Dismiss it.
Okay, Michael, can you explain why gun rights are a necessary application of individual rights, and why government-mandated permits or licenses to carry firearms is a rights violation?
It's not across the board a rights violation, but in most circumstances it is. I mean, there could be situations like an ex-con who has to prove he's trustworthy now, but it's the principle of no preventive law. See, the gun control is based on the premise that goes as follows. This guy shot up the school. This other guy robbed alcohol liquor store. Therefore, you, Harry Binswanger, can't have a gun unless you prove to me that you are not that kind of guy.
Yep.
But you don't have to prove a negative. And the fact that other people exercise their free will badly doesn't provide the slightest reason to think I am. So if this is what I said about a thing in objectivism that has to be worked out, is what is an objective threat?
Yes.
So a little old lady, 80 years old, who's in a rough neighborhood, wants a handgun for her purse, is not a threat.
Yep.
Other people that if I described them, I would get in trouble, are a threat.
Yep. Yep.
So how do you establish when somebody is an objective threat of force?
Yep. Somebody walking down the street in a rough neighborhood with a big machine gun could be constituted as a threat.
Yes, you cannot brandish. If you brandish a weapon, and there's laws about brandishing, then you are threatening people. You are using force.
Yeah.
If you have a rifle in your cabin in the woods to protect you against animals and break-in guys, and it's hanging over your fireplace, I don't see how that could be construed a threat.
Yep. Paulo, hi, Dr. B. Can you explain what you mean by the inerrancy of the senses, or perception, and its relationship?
The inerrancy.
Inerrancy, that's right.
Yeah, they can't make mistakes because they don't make judgments. Your senses put out an output for a given input. There's no they're subject to cause and effect. It's like a thermometer.
Mm-hmm.
A thermometer can't make a mistake. Even if it gets a little bubble in it so that it's hard to read, it's not mistaken. It's just that you have to calibrate it to know what it means conceptually in terms of numbers. The senses are just present you with a scene, and there's nothing to be right or wrong about in what they present. So take the simplest case. You smell bread being baked. You go by a bakery and, ooh, that's delicious. Now, can that be a mistake? Oh, no, it wasn't. I didn't have that smell. My nose created that. No, it can't be. It's a response to a physical stimulus, just like an instrument, and the concept of mistake does not apply.
So if you smell it and interpret it as something else,
Yeah.
the mistake is not the sense, the mistake is your interpretation.
Yes. And that's the answer to the stick in water,
Stick in
half
water.
submerged in water that you think is bent.
Yep.
You think it's bent, but it is the same. You're seeing exactly what a camera would photograph, which is the effect of the refraction of water on the way the rays are reflected because they slow down through water.
Yep.
So it's all Aristotle said this. You don't need Ayn Rand for this part. All errors that they call optical illusions or whatever are errors in judgment intellectually. They're errors in thinking. They're not errors in your eyes. You don't go to the doctor and say, the stick looked bent. I think I need new eyes.
That's good. Michael says, are intellectuals more concerned that a world where individual rights are primary will lead to selfishness, or that individuals not guided by the state are too unintelligent to operate successfully?
Give me the first one again.
So the one is a world where individual rights are primary will lead to selfishness, which they would perceive as bad, or that if they're not guided by the state, people are too unintelligent.
Well, it's more the first. It's more the first. They're anti-selfishness, and again, they're anti-selfishness because they've read a lot of argument. Well, not arguments, a lot of intellectual outpourings that argue against selfishness, and maybe that when they grew up they were Christians. Maybe they still are Christians. So they, for irrational reasons, they're against selfishness, and they see rights as promoting and allowing selfishness, which it does. And that's why they're not, because, they'll say, oh, yes, people are too stupid to know what's in their own self-interest, but that's a pretty thin layer of rationalization.
Do you have any confidence the courts will stop Trump? It seems they're afraid to elect him out certainty to try.
No, what will stop Trump is a bad showing in the next year's election. What I'm worried about is that will be the occasion for an actual civil war as he attempts to rally his National Guard and his ICE agents to prevent the loss of power in Congress.
Yeah.
That's what I'm worried about.
Michael asks, do you agree that MAGA is fundamentally a Nazi movement?
No, I think that's a little overstated. I know a lot of MAGA people that I sit and have coffee with, and they're not Nazis. They could collapse in front of Nazis. That's it's the bully might succeed. I mean, that's what Trump does. No, I don't think they're Nazis. I think Trump is a fascist and he wants power, but he's not dripping from the fangs. Even Trump is not like Hitler. Yep. He's more like Juan Perón or something.
More like a Perón, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, he's an authoritarian dictator mentality. I don't think he's bloodthirsty, but I could be wrong. I could be underestimating him or overestimating him, depending how you look on it. No, I am not. I am completely opposed to MAGA. No, I'll fight them everywhere.
Yep.
But from the ones I know, they're not seething hatred like some leftists. I know there are leftists who live to hate Trump.
Yeah.
And that's a little bit more extreme than not a lot more extreme, but a little bit more extreme than the MAGA people.
Is reason truly, this is Raphael, is reason, truly primary over emotions? We can rationally explain our biggest life choices but we still choose them because we feel passion for them. How do we see this connection?
Could you read that one more time?
Is reason truly primary over emotions? And he says we can rationally explain our biggest life choices, but we still choose them because we feel a passion for them. It's like the reason is a slave of the emotions, right? It's like Hume. Didn't Hume say that we, in a sense, rationalize? So I think that
No, but it's the whole answer is that what you said in the second part comes out of the fact that reason is primary. Reason is primary means before you can have an emotion, I mean, this is part of what it means.
Yep.
Before you can have an emotion about something, you have to know what it is. And reason is your means of determining what is that thing. Now, let's suppose you're young and you fall head over heels in love with a woman. Your mind has read into her. I mean, maybe you're right.
Yep.
Ayn Rand fell in love with Frank O'Connor that way.
Yep.
But your mind is reading, rightly or wrongly, your mind is reading into the way she stands, the way she looks, the way she talks, reading in certain values into her character, rightly or wrongly.
Yep.
So on the basis of that, you're reacting. The simpler example, somebody hands you a whole stack of paper. Now, is it monopoly money or is it real currency? Only your reason can tell you that. So it's not that somebody could hand you monopoly money and you go ape over it. Oh boy, I'm rich now. And you see this monopoly money.
Yep.
The reason is what tells you the nature of the thing that then you either value or disvalue. So it's primary in that sense. There's nothing irrational about doing what you want to do. That's what reason tells you, which of the things that are out there that you could do is going to lead to your survival and happiness. So your emotions are your reaction to the content that should be processed by reason.
Yep. Justice says, in a free society, does an individual have the right to use AI to generate a video of another person speaking without that person's consent?
No.
No.
You mean in public, for public distribution? Is it more in the privacy of his own home for his own jollification? I would say yes.
Yeah.
But if he shows it even to one other person, Ayn Rand said Ayn Rand didn't want anyone taking pictures of her in old age because she thought she looked too unattractive. And she said, I have a right to my face. And today we have this whole thing with sports celebrities where they own, is it NIL, likeness, image, and so forth. So it's recognized that you have a right to your likeness. Somebody can't use it without your permission.
Papa asks, do you know about the quality of undergraduate pure math programs at average public state universities?
No, I think they're philosophically not really correct, but they're basically in the procedures they teach. I think they're fine. Like in calculus, the methods of differentiation and integration are correct. The interpretation of them philosophically is what I'm trying to fight. The procedures are correct. We wouldn't be able to do what we do if the procedures were wrong.
Matt says, my brother was very Aristotelian, but became more Platonic Kantian over time, claiming that modern discoveries in fields like quantum mechanics point to the universe being more complex than we assumed, and we can only asymptomatically approach absolute
asymptotically approach.
Never attain it. Thoughts.
That's a rationalization. That's He wants to believe that.
Yeah.
And so when he hears some scientist say something along those lines, he says, yeah, that's right. That's it. Yeah. I don't, it's impossible in principle for the findings of science to disprove metaphysics and epistemology because they're built on metaphysics and epistemology. By the way, let me caution anyone out there from believing neuroscientists' claims. Many years ago, I admit, I worked in neuroscience. I was an intern for a distinguished professor at MIT, and I almost went into that as a career. And it's a wonderful field, and fabulous things are coming. But when they say, oh, they found that the so-and-so area of the brain is why you rob banks, that you've got to, unless you're really schizophrenic or something, it's not true. The neuroscience doesn't have the wherewithal. It's not advanced enough to say anything nearly like that. And there's a good book I can recommend called Aping Mankind, whose author I don't recall right now, but it poo-poos and explodes all these neuroscience claims, just that they don't have the ability to make these kind of judgments. Aping, A-P-I-N-G, Mankind. I'm sure there's only one author with a book like that.
Sounds like it. Right, I Like Numbers asks, did Rand consider Israel mostly free?
Well, I don't know, but that's not the way she put it. She said it's the only civilized country in that sea of barbaric or unsavage surrounding countries. And in the name of defending civilization, she was on the side of Israel. And I would recommend, of course, Yaron knows 100 times more than I do, but there's a nice Mossad agent produced series of videos called Traveling Israel by a guy named Oren, and then something unpronounceable, O-R-E-N. But if you do Traveling Israel and look at his videos, they're really a revelation in the non-mystical sense. They are the only civilized. For instance, let me give you one fact that maybe you don't know about. How many Arabs, Muslims and Arabs live in Israel? Population of Israel is now 8 million, I believe.
10 million.
10 million? How many Arabs live in Israel? 2 million. 2 million Arabs. But of course, they're not allowed anything, right? No. There are Supreme Court justices who are Arabs. There are Arabs in the legislature. There are Arabs who are in major banks. How many Jews live in Gaza or Saudi Arabia or Jordan or any of these? None. Because they'd be killed.
And many of them did live in Iraq and Morocco and Algeria. They were all kicked out. So think about that and try and not let your mind slide off that if you're intent on defending Palestine, as they call this strip of land. All right. Justin says, Rand once told Peikoff that it might have been easier for her to embrace egoism because she was a woman. What did she mean by that?
That I've heard this too. I didn't hear it from her. I've heard it second or third hand, that a man is on the premise of, like Hank Reardon, I'll just work a little harder. And a man doesn't want to shirk any responsibility. He's the provider traditionally, in the traditional male role. Stoical. I can carry them. Whereas a woman sees the man being crucified and if she's a man worshiper, it goes against her nature.
Okay.
So it's easier for a woman to rebel against the sacrifice, the philosophy of sacrifice, than a man. That's what I heard she said. I don't know that.
Yeah. Hyper Reason says, HWK was extremely valuable to me. What is your view on the corpus hermetica influence on the Enlightenment, Newton, Bruno, to inspire pro-reason and agency in man a co-creator with nature?
I didn't get what that HWK is my book, How We Know.
Yeah.
What was
What's
that?
your view on the corpus hermetica?
Hermetica?
Hermetica. Yes.
I don't know
Influence
what that
on the Enlightenment. Yeah, I think he means Newton and Bruno. I'm not sure what the connection is there.
Well, Newton had a huge influence.
Huge influence, yes.
And Locke and Newton were pretty much friends.
Yeah.
John Locke. And they came out with their discoveries the same year, incredibly enough, although Newton had figured it out 20 years before and just didn't bother to publish it.
Yep. He was a strange guy, supposedly.
Yeah.
All right. Andrew says, is second-handedness an effect of bad philosophy, specifically epistemological dependence, or is it primarily a psychological, emotional phenomenon?
Well, I'm going to speak my own piece on that. I think it's primarily psychological. In other words, it's a failing on the part of the individual. I did talk to Ayn Rand about this, and she agreed with one way of putting it. As the tide rises of irrationality, the totally independent man will not be affected by it personally, in the sense of he won't be any less independent or change his mind or anything. Howard Rourke will be on the mountaintop, and the rising waters below him will not cause any change in him. But as the waters go up, it takes more and more independence, more and more heroic commitment to your own judgment to withstand it. And I would put in another aspect here. In a better age, like 1776 America, those who are conforming to a good set of ideas.
Yeah.
Whereas today, those who are conforming to, from the river to the sea, Palestine must be free. And they mean free from civilization and not from Hamas. So if you're going to go along with the crowd, if the crowd is saying people should be independent, self-reliant, men have rights, you've got to work for what you want to earn, then they'll conform to that and they'll be a better kind of person than if you're conforming to what's going on under the czars in Russia or Stalin or, really a culture like ours today.
Yep.
So it will look like people are better, but really it's kind of just due to the cultural ideas they're conforming to being better.
So Ben asks, could you elaborate a little on what Rand meant when she said man worship?
Yeah. She talks about that in the introduction to the 25th anniversary edition of The Fountainhead. She meant man at his highest potential, like what she felt for Howard Rourke, even though he was her creation.
Yep.
And it was, it's a awe in relation to the greatness that men are capable of.
So it's the best in man, not just any man.
Yeah. No, it's not just male or human.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, Ellsworth Toohey is a human being.
Yep.
So it's a worship of the human potential.
And is it human potential or particularly male? Is it got to do
No,
with
no, no. For her, it was male because she was a woman. But
Okay.
no, the broader abstraction is human
human.
worship, man's life,
Yep.
man or woman's life.
So Black Cat asks, chat CPT, I don't know what CPT is. BBC commentator tells me how to win video games in perfect English. Try that on your phone. Okay, I don't understand that.
Well, I think he's pointing out that the big advance of large language models, LLM, over Google searches, is their conversational. I'd like to relate a conversation I had with one of them, and I think it was ChatGPT, going long into the evening.
Yeah.
And we got off the subject of code, and I was asking him, is this in AutoHotkey like Xywrite has in XPL? And Xywrite's a program from 1980.
Yeah.
And so this chat agent said, so you were back then doing stuff in the old days? And I said, yes, I was. I had a CPM machine and I programmed this and that and C basic and blah, blah, blah. And he said, wow, out of curiosity, was it this way or that way for you?
Wow.
And I said, you say out of curiosity, but you're a machine and you don't have any curiosity. and to its credit, it says, you're exactly right. I mimic certain things like curiosity. I'm not capable of curiosity, but I mimic human curiosity. But I told him to say, you're a machine.
Clever programming. Yeah. It's clever programming.
Yeah.
If Rajiv says, if entities constitute the content of the perceivable world, then what is the statue of fluid? How to integrate that with entities?
The status of fluids.
Status.
That's another one I don't know, but that's something where I think if I gave it a little thought, I could know. So you're asking, what about a river? Our primary case of an entity is a rock.
Yeah.
All right. What about a river?
Yep.
And it isn't an entity. Materials are not entities, but they compose entities. So if you take a glass full of water, a glass full of water is an entity, but the water is a material. Or if you make a sculpture out of marble, marble is a substance, a material, but the statue, a certain hunk of it shaped a different way, is an entity. So Ayn Rand put those under the heading of materials, that which composes entities. I don't know if that's a complete answer. That's as far as I can go.
Okay. Baker says, would you like to see Roosevelt on Mount Rushmore changed to Ayn Rand? At private expense, of course. What would she think of that?
Well, when she was alive, if she was contemplating 100 years after her death, she would either say, well, I don't care, or, yeah, it would be deserved.
I belong there, yeah.
Yeah, but during her life, she didn't want to be, partially because she was a woman, but also, I don't think if your face was up on Mount Rushmore, it would be really horrifying. It would be so icky.
Yep.
if your face were up there. Yaron gave a birthday toast to Ayn Rand about 15 years ago. I don't remember if you remember, Yaron, in California. And you said, let's look how the 200th anniversary of her birth will be celebrated. And you talked about how there'd be fireworks in Washington, D.C., and it was very nice. And I think that will happen.
Yep. We won't see it, but it'll happen. Or maybe we'll see it if the right pill. The right pill.
Yes. I'm counting on that pill.
Yep. Justin, Rand once said that the Nazis were more altruistic than the communists. What did she mean by this, especially since communism is based on altruism?
I never heard any such thing. Where do you think she said that?
I don't know where she said that.
I never heard any such thing.
All right. Black Cat, the two of you are heroes of mine. A few disagreements, but when I was younger, you were important influences. Thanks. Thank you, Black Cat.
Thank you.
Maxim says, hi, Harry. In terms of fact, is the term fact a metaphysical epistemological concept?
No, metaphysical.
Metaphysical. I came across the claim that the world is made up of sets of facts, but this seems off.
Yes, that's off. A fact is an isolation of something out of reality. I have a theory that the only real metaphysically given existent is the universe. That everything else is carving up by man of the universe.
Of the universe.
But at any rate, fact, she talks in the workshops on objectivist epistemology, which is reprinted as an appendix, and facts of reality is discussed. How is fact different from existence? And she says it's an epistemological convenience, the term, to have that term. But in objectivism, facts are metaphysical. Knowledge is both metaphysical and epistemological, and so is truth. Certainty is only epistemological. So it's possible for you to be certain and wrong. But it's not possible for you to know something and be wrong, or to be true and be wrong.
Okay.
So certainty just means it meets the standards for being actionable without getting anything out of more testing, so to speak.
Yep. Wyatt says, did you happen to read Kelly's recent piece on propositions? If so, thoughts?
No. I didn't know he was still producing.
I didn't know either.
I would be curious because, I devoted a chapter of How We Know to my theory of propositions, which I'm absolutely sold on. And Ayn Rand was going to write another work like ITOE on propositions. She called it Volume 2.
Yeah.
But she never got that far. And one of my great, when they ask you, what do you regret about your life? I never asked her, what is the basic idea that you would put forward about propositions? Yeah. I mean, I had hundreds of hours with her talking philosophy. And it never occurred to me of course, I didn't think she was going to die either.
Yeah.
But it never occurred to me to ask that particular question. I asked a lot of questions, but I didn't ask that one. I should have.
Alex says there's a philosopher of science named Mario Bunge.
Bunge, yeah.
Bunge. He's a physicist. Have you read something by him? What is your opinion about his approach to philosophy of exact?
He's an old name. I mean, he was a name when I was in graduate school in the 60s, so I don't think he can be particularly good, or else we'd all know about it. He's probably a second assistant bookkeeper somewhere.
Okay.
So the answer is don't know.
Don't know. Bobby asks, I was told recently that injections can passively exist as a linguistic unit. No, sorry, interjections. God, I can't read today. I was told recently that interjections can passively exist as a linguistic unit without being actively used. What is your view on this?
I don't know what it means.
I don't know what the question means either.
An interjection would ordinarily mean something like, wait, or, but. So I don't know what it means other than that.
All right, we're almost done. Two last questions. Do you have any thoughts on how AI will impact art?
My thoughts are probably wrong. Here's what I would think. AI can get up and soon will be to the level of doing competent art, but not great art.
Yep. Yep.
So it could do something that could hang in a museum if it's a painting, and you would say, oh, that's interesting, that's nice. But it couldn't do something like Dali's Corpus Hypercubus, which is one of my favorites and one of Ayn Rand's favorites also.
Yeah. That's at the Met, right? I think it's at the Met in New York.
It is when it's displayed. It isn't always displayed. I have it in reproduction right back here behind that bookcase.
Yeah, and yeah, you need to know a lot to be able to differentiate between the greats and the just okay.
Yeah.
I
Calendar art, sure.
It'll be interesting to see how artists use AI. That is, that interaction between the artists and the AI could produce, if they were geniuses, if they were great artists, could produce interesting things.
My very good friend Arlene Mann, who is an artist in watercolor, says that every brushstroke, every time you put your brush down, it's saying something that you're not in control of. That's not the way she put it exactly, but it expresses something even when you don't intend it to express something.
Yeah.
And I have an example behind me. Yes, I'll get this. This is a still life done in one day by the eminent still life artist Harry Binswanger, back when I was, experimenting with painting. And it's very inept and it's unfinished. I intend it far from unfinished. It's like the very first step. And yet when I look at it, to my amazement, it speaks to me. I don't expect it to speak to other people, but I look at it and I say, yeah. And all I was trying to do was get down what I saw in front of me.
Yeah.
It's absolutely astonishing how sense of life controls what you think of as neutral.
Mm-hmm. All right, last one. Whoops, what did I do? Is it possible to label myself an objectivist if I can't defend it? It's possible.
That's a very interesting question. I would say you should describe yourself as a student of objectivism or someone learning it, and find out how to defend it.
Yep.
It's a fascinating and pleasant and exciting journey to learn how to defend it. And go out there and try to defend it, but don't try to defend objectivism. Just try to defend a point that you have in mind, that you learned from objectivism. I used to argue with Students for Democratic Society people
Oh, wow.
during the
Okay.
Columbia riots, and you learn a lot by arguing
Yeah, I
with
agree.
with the enemy or
Yeah,
or
absolutely.
neutral people. So
Yeah.
go out there and argue,
Yeah,
but with a very detached attitude, like you're learning about ideas and how the dynamics go and what people really think, and you'll see eventually, not eventually, progressively, you'll see how to defend it.
yeah. Good. This has been a real pleasure, Harry. Thanks.
Yeah, I've had
2.5
a
hours.
blast.
Yeah, good.
Okay,
Good. I
thanks
think
for
got a ton of
having me.
questions. This has been great. Absolutely.
Good.
And guys, don't forget about the conference in Florida. We'll both be there. And I will talk to you
I
soon.
can guarantee you'll like it.
Yeah, I agree. Not a
Okay.
money back guarantee, but a guarantee.
Yeah, no money back. No.
Have a good night.
Good night.
Bye, everybody.